Hi, my name's Andy, as you probably gathered from the channel name, and I'm here in the Forest of Dean, which is just on the west side of England, between England and Wales, just between the rivers Severn and Wye. And I'm not far from a little group of houses called Clement's End. But as you can probably gather from my headgear, I'm not going to be going for a walk in the woods. I'm going to be going down here, and I'll just twizzle the camera around down there. So let's have a go, see where we end up. Let's get my light on. There we go. I wouldn't normally go underground on my own, but this is a place I've been going on and off for 30 odd years, and I'm not going far. I'm mostly just going in to check the water level today, because we have had unprecedentedly dry patch. It's been about a month. This is now just the end of July. We've had about a month with no rainfall at all, which is pretty crazy for Britain. See a lovely little pillar of rocks there. Now this is a very old iron mine, part of a collection of iron mines. The entrance we're going in is called Jetty. If we're lucky, we may get far enough to see why it's called Jetty, but I suspect not, because the water level will be too high. Fabulous little archway here takes us through into this other section. You can see, looking up the slope, that there were a lot of other entrances that have all been infilled, which is where all this rubble comes from. So what we're actually going to be climbing down now is a big pile of rubble that's been bulldozed in from above. So across here, see that they intersected some tunnels from an earlier section of the mine when they were working it at a later date. And you can get and come out through there if we had a little rope. But I'm not planning on doing that today. It's a bit slippery. As I say, I wouldn't normally go caving on my own. I'm not going far today. even though I've been coming here for 30 odd years, mines are dangerous places. There are falls, there's deep water and loose rocks. So even with my knowledge, I can still slip, I can still fall over and hurt myself and get stuck. So you always let somebody know where you're going and what's going to be happening. So working my way down this rubble slope using muddy footsteps that have been cut into the dirt. And we are going to turn up very shortly at a level. A level was a tunnel driven, obviously level, so that the horses could pull wagons. Obviously, when the mine was very early, everything was carried out the way that we've come in. Later on, they joined up many of these holes with a level and then a tunnel a cross-cut tunnel that turned 90 degrees and headed out and came out in the bottom of the valley. And we are just approaching the level now, but as you can see, it's still flooded. But it has gone down a long way because the water was a good 30 foot, maybe 40 feet above where we are now. So this is the level. You can see it's going from side to side here. A nice little timber there. And there you can see the level carrying on through there. But at the moment it's probably waist deep. And you can see that there are deeper level, there's a deeper section going down there. You see where the water is a darker blue. That's deeper water. And in the later in December that may even become dry. Might be able to go down there. There's a few pieces of old tin work here or something. Bolt. And somewhere here is I seem to remember there's a shovel, but can't see it at the moment. One of the things we can see is that line. See that orange line disappearing into the water? That is a dive line. The divers come down here when it's dry, lay out a series of lines that they can follow, and then when it floods, they can go for a little explore in the flooded sections, knowing that they've got nice lines set up that they can follow. Because as soon as you start swimming around in somewhere like this, oh, there's the remains of the shovel. I knew it was there somewhere. There we go. Yeah, as I was saying, as soon as you start swimming around, the silt comes up and the water becomes absolutely impenetrable. You can't see what you're doing, where you're going. Okay. Right, so we can't go any further that way, but we can head out a different entrance. Unfortunately, we won't get to see the jetty today because the jetty is further over there. But that will now be underwater. So maybe I'll come back another day. So hopefully, if we head across this way, there will be a dry path. I mean, this is an enormous chamber, as you can see. Initially, this would have been done. Well, some of these tunnels could potentially be pre-Roman, but certainly medieval. And much of it would have been dug by hand, pickaxes, shovels. And much of it has been reworked later on using a big old bolt there from something. Been reworked later on using drills and gunpowder. And in fact, you can see there is the remains of a gunpowder shot hole there. You can see half the hole. Let's turn it round that way so you can see. There we go. They've drilled down, filled it with gunpowder, and the gunpowder burns quite slowly, so and it's quite smoky. So as it started to heave the piece of rock off, the soot from the smoke from the burning gunpowder is squeezed out into the crack that was being made and formed that black mark all around the hole. So you can see there are two there. There's one above. And just as I was stood here, I've just noticed something else as well. We've got something known as slicken sides, which is a sort of a glassy substance that formed when rocks move. Over the millions of years since these rocks were produced, sometimes they have moved, and as they've slid against each other, the heat and the pressure turns the two surfaces that are moving against each other to glass. And so you get these shiny glass-like slicken sides. Right, I'm going to walk across this ledge. As you can see, the water level is down there. There are lots more holes. Doobie-doo. There we go, done that. That was the trickiest bit. It's quite an interesting bit over here. In order to give themselves more place to stack the rock, they've put a couple of bits of rail and sort of put one across the passageway, but another one 90 degrees to it, and then stacked several tons of rock on top. And all of that is right over the top of that. And actually, that squared off bit of stonework that you can see down there, that is part of the jetty. No idea what it was for. Apart from a sort of an embankment to run the tram track onto. I can see another piece of rail there holding up a pile of rocks. Right, we'll head up this little path. Let's go that way today. Oh, there's another hole there with almost like a little staircase going down into it. And that drops back down and comes back down onto the jetty again. Skirt round some roof. There's no longer roof. There we go. So that's fallen off of there somewhere. And we can just hop up over here. Back onto a nice little causeway. You can see there's a little causeway there. Bit of a crawl through these bits where it's falling down. I'll turn the camera in and you can watch me. Back again. Another tunnel down through there. That doesn't go anywhere. It's a dead end. Right. Up here. Going along this tunnel, this is what they intersected when they were blasting later on. So if I was to carry on along here, along that tunnel there, that would drop you down back into the entrance chamber through that hole in the roof. And there are more ways up that would originally have gone out to the surface, most likely. So all of these different mines were linked up by a drainage level that was put in from the bottom of the valley, and that was known as Quob's level or Oakwood Mill land level, and that was how they got the majority of the ore out. That would come out to the bottom of the valley and then being taken down to the railway at Park End, which is the next village down. Again, more ways here, there and everywhere. bit lower to get my head through. This is where I needed my knee pads. And then we're heading up through there. Extend the boom so you can watch me coming up again. Try and keep it steady as I can. And here we are. One last little hop up. Bring that back together. There we go, and we can see daylight coming from up there. If I turn my light down, there we go. This is what's known as Great Collapse, because there must have been a huge collapse here. If we'd been able to go along the level, we would have come up there. Some clown has been spray painting arrows on everything. If you can't remember where you're going, don't go there. So as I say, Great Collapse. This would have been an underground chamber. And the roof fell in. That's my brightest light. There used to be a massive tree coming down through there, but that's now completely disintegrated. And we can hop up over here and follow the arrows of the clown with the spray can. How many arrows does he need? Must be a goldfish. Can't remember for 2 seconds. More fabulous wall of deads there that they've stacked up, partially supporting that rock, I suspect, and partially because they didn't want to take them out. Some lovely flowstone coming down that is calcium carbonate with some little tiny stalactites. You can see more flowstone through there, and lots of little tiny straw stalactites. That very straight section would have been a fault wall of some kind. Or presumably a very long time ago the two rocks moved and slid against each other, so the miners have followed that, digging along that wall to see whether there are any minerals in the fault. That's marvellous. Fantastic bit of flowstone, look at that. Considering we're only a matter of a few feet underground, that's pretty impressive. Very orange, stained with the iron, and you can see the ground is really orange. All the dead's built up. As you can hear from the clattering of my helmet on the roof, it's lowish. We're just on the point of coming out. You can see the daylight just up there. And it's suddenly got very warm. There we go, and we're about to appear out through there. I'll turn the camera off now so you can't see it from outside, but this is another one of the entrances. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll try and do this again sometime.